Welcome to the Referrals Podcast, the show designed to help everyone from the solopreneur to the Fortune 500 company win the referral game. If you want to build a company with an army of ambassadors and raving fans who speak highly of you and refer you willingly, you are in the right place. And now, here is your host, Michael J. Maher.
Referrals Podcast listeners, do you have the mindset of a champion? We're going to find out today what it's like to have the mindset of a champion, winning, making things happen, the life of our dreams, having fun, doing what we do, health, wealth, and happiness. We can have it all. We can have it all. But it starts with the right mindset. We're going to talk about that today. I got to give a shout out for Gen Woman. Yes, we have a mastermind, gengenwoman.com. It's women's only mastermind and networking. That's what WOMAN, the acronym, stands for. Women only, mastermind and networking. Well, Tina says, I've been searching for a long time for a women only mastermind group, and I'm so glad that Gen started one. I'm home. Tina, welcome home, and check that out at gengenwoman.com. Last but not least, hey, are you coming to Referral Mastery Summit 2022? Referral Mastery Summit 2022 is going to be in Orlando, September 27th, 28th, and 29th. And guess what? We're doing back to the future of sales. Is the future of sales back to basics? What is it going to look like when what is the sales of the future going to look like? What's the salesman of the future going to look like? What are you going to look like in the future? We're going to help you with that. We're going to establish business plans for the next 15 months. You're going to walk out with one, maybe two business plans, and you're going to see and get with and network with and connect with some of the most awesome people in the world who are building their businesses on love, generosity, and appreciation. Check it out at rms22.com, rms22.com. I cannot wait for that. A live event. That's right. It's alive. Yes, that's right. We're doing a live event in Orlando, September 27th through the 29th. That is Referral Mastery Summit 2022, rms22.com. Check it out. Thanks, everybody, for that. And also, I got to give a shout out to all you listeners and viewers. Number 34 in the world. You've helped us become the number 34 in the world podcast. And I have to tell you, our goal is top 10. And the other part of this too is we've never bought a listener or a viewer or a rating or a review or any of that. It's real people like you. And you know what? It's real people, real stories, real referrals. That's who we are here at Referrals Podcast. So I'm so happy to have you here on board today. Thank you for listening. Do us a favor. If you like it, rate it, review it, and of course, share it. Today's episode guest is, I'm telling you, this guy knows the championship mindset. Tim Hanway is an accredited sports and exercise scientist, human performance specialist, PhD student. Dr. Tim Hanway has a nice ring to it. And adjunct professor at LaSalle University. He works with professional athletes and general populations and offers a range of services, including personal training and high performance coaching. Having consulted with everyone from NFL athletes and Olympians to physicians, therapists, and business owners, Tim creates bespoke training programs that blend high performance coaching with practical skills and know-how. As a result, Tim empowers his clients, athletes, and students to achieve sustained high performance on the field, in the office, and in the classroom, while simultaneously achieving lasting fulfillment in the process. Success plus significance. You can't beat it. Welcome to Referrals Podcast, Tim Hanway.
Thank you so much for that incredible introduction, Michael. I'm left speechless. You know, I think if I had to kind of describe myself and truncate that down, I would simply say that I am a person and professional that is absolutely obsessed with the consistent, persistent pursuit of knowledge, growth, and innovation for himself and for his clients.
Well, I absolutely love that right off the bat, because within Referral Mastery, we teach three mastery, like key pillars, if you will. They're points of a triangle for the way we display it. And it's self-mastery, relationship mastery, and event mastery. Well, today is all about self-mastery. I really believe that. Is we talk about self-mastery being fly. First, love yourself, right? Yep. It's really hard to love on others if you don't love yourself. It is. It's just really hard. So guess what? First love yourself, and then all of a sudden it becomes so easy to walk a path of love, generosity, and appreciation because you love yourself. And that comes with a lot of grace. And we're not talking about perfect. We're all imperfect. It's just giving yourself some grace for those, but also loving the positives in the heart that you have.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to bury the lead. I'm going to ask you literally right off the bat, and my high D on the disc profile really going to love me right now because they're like, just get to it, right? And so I'm going to get right to it. What is a champion mindset? And I'm genuinely curious. I don't know the answer. For the listeners and viewers, you're thinking, doesn't Michael know all the answers to the questions? Never, right? I don't know the answer. What is a championship mindset?
Sure. And I love that question. And again, for all the people that fall into that disc format, let me get right to the point. If I had to summarize it, and this is years of my own experiences, as you mentioned, working with high-end elite athletes. I always joke with people too, just quick little plug. I am the real Ted Lasso because I worked in the English Premiership as an American. So, you want to talk about just learning how to love yourself. We've all found that show is such a great escape during these troubling times. But to answer your question, what is a championship mindset? Simple for me. A championship mindset is all about, it's almost like Coach Gaines says in Friday Night Lights, it's about being perfect. And it's about your commitment to yourself and your family and your friends. And it's about being able to look those people in the eye because you tell them the truth. And that truth is that you're doing everything you possibly can to lead a life of passion and fulfillment. And I'd also say it's about living moment to moment with clear eyes, love in your heart, and joy in your heart. And for me, that's what being a champion is all about. So that is the best explanation I've ever heard. I'm not going to promise to say that it's mine. Again, I'm an academic, so I always source my work. But I think that is the most eloquent description of what a championship mindset really is.
And not only that, you dropped 2 movies into the first 5 minutes that now I've got to go watch. I mean, Ted Lasso, I haven't seen any of that, so I've got to check that out. Everybody keeps referring it to me. Yeah. I just don't do a lot of TV stuff. So, and then you dropped it with the program, right? Wasn't that the program, or is it every given Sunday?
Again, amazing football movies in their own right. Everyone has to watch them. This is the original Friday Night Lights.
Friday Night Lights. That's right.
Really Bob Thornton. So that is almost verbatim the halftime speech. But having again taught seminars on this, having studied this, having researched this, I still think to this day it is the most clear, eloquent description of what a championship mindset is.
Man, I love that. There were so many great, really poignant points in that movie that relate not just to sports, even though it was very, very heavily sports, but life, and that, Howard Cosell once said, sports is the microcosm of life. And it's really true. So why do you think that sport provides the perfect conceptual framework for learning how to be a high performer?
I love that. And I mean, I make no apologies for the fact that I come from that sports background, but you don't have to be an athlete to take away from elite sport. And when I work with my clients, and I even call them my corporate athletes, I'm very clear when I give presentations or when I do one-on-one consultations. It does not matter if you've played a minute or moment of organized sport, or if you don't even like sports. But to your point, there are certain things that the sporting arena provides, in my humble opinion, that are just unlike any other endeavor. And that is in no way, shape, or form a knock on the arts, on music, on all these different incredible modalities that are all about human expression, because that's what sport is. But I think what I love about sport is you get this perfect blend of physicality. So again, getting into our bodies, testing ourselves, testing our mettle, whether it be our strength or endurance. I think back to watching Michael Jordan in his heyday. I mean, he was an artist. But what I also love about sport too is there's certain inherent themes that you also don't find anywhere. There's competition. There's striving to be your best. There's also limits and rules. And just like the world we live in, we have our limits and rules to how we must conduct ourselves. But there's also a finite beginning and a finite end. And, without getting too kind of metaphysical here, we need to keep that in mind. We need to understand that we don't have an unlimited clock to live lives of fulfillment and passion, which means the day-to-day matters because the clock is ticking. And I think if you can make peace with that and understand that and use that to your advantage, that can be really inspiring and can even be very freeing.
I love that. One of the exercises that we do from 7L is the 4 eulogies.
Mm-hmm.
And, it comes from Stephen Covey with with the end in mind, right? And so we have them, essentially we give them 4 people to pick to write eulogies for them right now. And and then they say, what do you want them to say in bullet items? Just what are the kind of the overall characteristics you want? And then they have them write them. Yeah. And then they see how much it aligns with what they wrote down. And it's very eye-opening. And then we have them write their epitaph.
I love that.
Like, what are the 12 words or less that are going to be on your tombstone?
And
I mean, you can hear a pin drop, and it's a little macabre, but it's like, we got to begin with the end in mind. What legacy do you want to leave? How do you want to be remembered? And I took 3 notes just on your paragraph. So one is, all right, you said corporate athletes,
mm-hmm.
which I don't know if I've ever heard of that term before. Like, can you elaborate on like what that means and that concept?
Absolutely. And again, being the consummate academic, it's not my original idea. I have to credit that. I believe that is Jim Lair and Tony Schwartz. And you can even, if you just Google that, you will come across a Harvard Business Review article, I believe from like 2007, that describes this concept of the corporate athlete. And then those same authors a few years later wrote a book called The Power of Full Engagement, which for me, if I had to create a life reading list, I think I would say that's compulsory for everybody. And to be quite frank, it's how I build my entire executive coaching business model, is on their work, because it takes this kind of athlete mindset, which we're going to be discussing, or this championship mindset, but it also looks at high performance very similar to how you do, which is we have these different arms to it. It's not all about leadership skills. It's not all about mental skills. These things are important. But what's your physiology doing? Your fitness levels, your body's ability to take an option. How are you creating and managing energy? Because you could have all the skills and ability in the world, but if you don't have that energy, you don't have that juice, you're going to struggle. So this is why when I work with all of my athletes, whether it's literal athletes or it's my corporate athletes, knowledge workers, people that are, C-suite executives or they're middle managers or, anyone in that corporate setting across the country, I treat them as an athlete and I try to get an idea of where are your energy leaks, and I have them do particular exercises like the Wheel of Life, which we can maybe get into in a little bit. But in the end of the day, it comes down to energy management and cultivation. And that's part mindset, but that's also part physiology. And that's why I like to blend my sports science background with my executive coaching services.
Well, you're preaching my language, man. I mean, it's just like I've gotten a little, gruff, maybe not gruff, but I've gotten some feedback, let's say, over the time, because I keep telling people that time is not your most valuable resource. Energy is your most valuable resource. You have less energy than you do time, right? You have 24 hours, right? Yeah. But energy, you might only have 3 to 4, maybe 6 hours, maybe 8 hours if you're lucky a day. So how are you utilizing your energy time? How are you using those moments, and how do you get the moments?
I recently fell in love with this company called palermobody because of how they've changed the way I'm finding time. Palermo wants to change everyone's perception of body care and self-care with their incredible 100% natural ingredient products. Right now, my 2 most favorite products are their coffee scrub and their body oil. They are 100% all natural ingredients. I love using their products because the extra moments I take for myself when I'm using them are so easy to fit into a packed day, and they really center me. Meanwhile, my skin just loves the ingredients.
And me too.
And I am totally a convert.
And so am I.
I never thought that I would use an oil after a body scrub because usually oils are so heavy on my skin. My skin is so sensitive. This is literally the first body oil that did not make me feel greasy and awful. So we partnered with them for this episode, and they are giving all of our listeners a special discount. So if you want to try the coffee scrub and the body oil that we've been talking about, all you have to do is go to palermobody.com/referrals. And Palermo is PALERMO body, BODY.com/referrals, and you get 10% off.
First, I want to just ask out of curiosity, how do you define energy?
Sure. I mean, there's so many ways we can look at that. So I'll try to kind of give you some different schools of thought, and then I'll just try to kind of summarize it nice and easy. It's the academic in me. I mean, starting off as an academic, I teach advanced classes like biomechanics, kinesiology, exercise, and sports physiology, which literally are all about human movement and how the human body actually creates energy on a cellular level. You know, if you're working with an elite athlete, in case in point, an NFL player, or when I was overseas in London, I worked in an English Premiership and professional rugby union, you know, I had to make sure that these athletes were able to compete with the same level of intensity from minute 1 to minute 80. And that all came down to energy. That was their nutrition, their sleep, their muscles' ability to produce force, all that stuff. So if I want to be kind of very scientific, we could say that energy on the one hand is your body's ability to do mechanical work, which comes through a bunch of respiratory and cellular processes. That's where a lot of the technical definitions kind of begin and end if you're a physiologist or biologist. If I wanted to say toggle between being more of a psychologist, I might talk about this concept of psychic energy. That's your decision-making abilities. That's your abilities to be focused. That's your ability to be motivated. We can tease that out a little bit too. So if I was a psychologist, I might describe energy in that way. But if I wanted to kind of blend those two paradigms, for me, energy is just your ability to just live your life with just vigor and enthusiasm and focus, and basically do it on your terms. You know, to be happy, to be fulfilled, to be, you know, to wake up with a bounce in your step. You know, energy is a nebulous term. It's hard, it's kind of like catching jello. It really is hard to define.
That's why I asked, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just
it really is. You know,
yeah.
And even other experts might disagree with even some of my, you know, personal kind of take on the situation. But when I just try to make it nice, easy, and bite-sized for my clients and students, it's just your ability to wake up with just vigor and just live a life of just passion and clarity. That's energy for me, and doing it consistently and regularly.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, it's amazing how, you know, clarity is power, right?
Yeah.
Clarity, clearness of message, clearness of, you know, your time, clearness of who you're going to speak with that day, or clearness of your mission, your purpose, your vision. Just how clarity is power. The other thing I just wrote down when you're right is like energy equals happiness.
Yeah.
And isn't it interesting? Like that's kind of what it boils down to, is the more happy you are, you're probably going to have more energy. But you also hit the biomechanical side of things, which is, you know, maybe some people have heard the story of like Tony Robbins. He had a coaching client who basically predicted the downfall of 2006 and 2009. And then afterwards, he had some misses. Like he wasn't generating the same amount of good stuff with. But well, what happened is he kind of got fat and happy, mentally and physically. The first thing Tony did is he did not talk about stocks or study or research, anything with business. He said, "All right, I want you to go to the gym." Yeah. And so he had him going to the gym 3 times a week. And he got in the best shape of his life, and he started hitting home runs again.
Yeah.
And he wasn't just hitting home runs in baseball or softball. He was hitting home runs in the stock market.
Yeah.
And so why? It was energy. You know, he got his energy back up. There's something about the biomechanical to the brain that leads to, like you said, I love vigor as a word, enthusiasm, passion, clarity. That's awesome. How do we get more of it, in your opinion?
Well, I mean, you know, this is where, and it's so interesting you bring up Tony Robbins. I mean, I am an Unleash the Power Within alumni. So I was very fortunate this past year to actually be part of that fully immersive experience, do the firewalk and play full out. So, you know, a lot of Tony's work, quite honestly, influences my work. So even if we kind of use him as almost a bit of a reference point, I think one of the best ways that you can do this is create leverage in your life. And that's one of his kind of fundamental teachings. And that's something that I work with my clients as well. You know, one of the biggest challenges that people face is this feeling of being stuck. They know what they should be doing, but they're not doing it. You know, and we all have areas in our life, you know, blind spots and also just energy leaks. And we can talk about that in a little bit too. But one of the ways that you can plug those leaks is, first of all, identify them. Do some form of assessment. And this is why when I work with my clients, I might have them do the wheel of life, which I've adopted from him, which is, you know, if we look at these different buckets of your life, your physical body, your financial health, your emotional health, like how do you rate yourself? where are these areas of opportunity? But once you identify that and you have that real open, honest assessment, with yourself, we even talk about things like DISC assessments. I mean, I love to use different assessments that look at different dimensions of just human being, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Self-awareness.
Self-awareness.
Right? I mean, these are all bringing self-awareness, and a lot of times, like you're saying, is the self-awareness of the scotoma, right? Our own blind spots, and I mean, that's what a great coach does. It's like, all right, we've got this big band of everything. It's like, man, if we just take that one thing that came from this assessment, how can we take that to the next level? What can we do? What's your 1 degree tweak there? So I love that.
But also, and I love what you just harped on, like more often than not, we're not talking seismic changes. We're talking 2 millimeter shifts.
Yep.
And this is where another person I really reference in a lot of my work is James Clear. He has the book Atomic Habits, which is another fantastic book. And, his central argument or treatise of the book is we are the sum of our daily habits. So if you can make your habits work for you and just leverage the power of compounding. And I think Einstein, was one quoted as saying, it's like next to fire, compounding is the greatest invention in human history. Yeah. We understand it from a financial standpoint, but if you look at the compounding effect of, say, behavior change, you can make these small incremental decisions, these small incremental actions that on their own don't look like much, but when you magnify that through time, they pay off massive dividends. And this is what I love about kind of just bringing it back to the assessment process. You're right. We get this snapshot, we put all the pieces of the puzzle out on the table, and then we look through it and we figure out where are some of these deficiencies. But the trick, though, is we don't just focus on those. We also focus on someone's strengths. I'm a strengths-based coach. I'm huge on leveraging people's strengths. I'm huge on the process of leveraging. But just before the thought slips my mind, and to kind of answer the original question, I'm a big believer in creating leverage. How do we make action a must and not a should? And that's taken directly from some of Tony's teachings.
Well, I love that. So, all right. So we talk about like energy and that kind of thing. You have some unique concepts on recovery and something called the 22-hour rule. And you can blame your wife for that. She was she's the one that told me that this is kind of one of the things that makes you a special coach and kind of an important concept. So what are those?
Sure. So the 22-hour rule, it's I borrowed this. This is from an elite sports scientist, a gentleman by the name of Fergus Conley. He's done a lot of like NFL consultations. He's pretty big in Europe. He's a phenomenal coach. He's moved into kind of the business sector as well. But, he's worked with high performers for years and someone that, I look up to this day. And the concept of the 22-hour rule is that, when you look at elite athletes, when you really look at, the Tom Brady's of the world, I'm in Boston, even though he's not here anymore. He's forever Boston. You got to keep it real. But when you look at, the LeBron James, the Tom Brady's, there's this kind of misconception by general population that these guys are living in the gym and they are training nonstop and that they are just constantly switched on. That's not how it works. When you work with elite competitors, they are training intently for maybe 2 to 3 hours a day. And then the majority of the day, they're getting soft tissue work, they're recovering, they're getting stretched out, they're doing yoga, they're focusing on their nutrition, they're taking naps. So what you kind of learn when you work with these populations is, again, it's the power of compounding. It isn't, hey, all these hours spent, burning yourself into the ground. We'll kind of maybe tackle this concept of the rise and grind fallacy, which quite frankly does not work. It works short term, but it doesn't work long term. It leads to burnout. But this 22-hour concept basically says, listen, really it just takes kind of 2 or 3 hours of intense work and focus every day to hit your goals. And the rest of that time should be how you design a life to lead a life of fulfillment and enjoyment and recovery. That's really the name of the game, but we somehow inverted that where more people think, no, I got to work and grind for 22 hours and maybe I get 2 hours of sleep. And that's me being a champion. And it doesn't work, but all you got to do is go on social media and there's still a lot of, prominent influencers out there that are touting that. And I think it's a huge misconception.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I absolutely love that. And that's what I've discovered in my process. I had a goal to bench press a certain weight before my birthday. And I did it a couple of months ago, 315, and then I did 335 last last week, and
Yeah.
it's one of those where everybody's like, what did you do in the last 6 months that you've driven that up? And
Yeah.
what's amazing to me is I've discovered I work out really intensely, right? It's so funny. I post the goal that I achieved the goal. One of the guys go, "Yeah, I saw you at the gym, but I didn't come over and talk to you." And I kind of know why, right?
Yeah.
It's because I'm pretty dang focused when I'm in the gym. But I work out for exactly 2 hours. It's amazing. I'll go in and I'll go like, all right, I'll get through it faster today. And I look up at the clock and I just did my savasana to, 5 minutes of kind of super ultra cool down. And I look up, it's 2 hours. And it's just like everything's 2 hours. But it's not those 2 hours. The 2 hours mean a lot. But
Yeah.
where I've made the most gains is what I do the other 22 hours with nutrition, with some supplementation with creatine. I mean,
Yep.
we're not sponsored by creatine or HMB providers right now, but
Yeah.
but the number one thing is sleep.
Yeah.
Is sleep. There are times when I sleep 6 hours a night, and the next day I feel bad. The next workout, and I do notice when I get bigger, when I get stronger, and
Yeah.
it's when I get 8 hours, and it seems like it's really the last 2 hours of sleep
Yeah.
that gives me the biggest jump in energy and just muscle growth.
Yeah.
So it is amazing. You're hitting it on the head, right?
Yeah.
And the bodybuilders know this,
Yeah.
right? The bodybuilders aren't in the gym all day. They're sleeping. They're taking a nap in the afternoon. They're sleeping at night. And I just love that. The other thing too is we all have 2 hours,
Yeah.
right? We have 2 hours to work out and we have 2 hours to work, and we
Yeah.
can work really hard in that 2 hours. So you're nailing it with this. Hey, Referrals podcast listeners, I am so excited to introduce you to Fight Camp. A lot of you have noticed that I've lost weight, that I've gotten in shape, that I look better, my face is thinner, and I have to tell you that's what makes me really excited about one of our new partners at Referrals podcast, and that is Fight Camp. When I first started getting back into shape, my personal trainer had me grab a pair of boxing gloves just like this, and I noticed that in my core, I was seeing a difference very, very quickly. And honestly, sometimes when you're early in the process, it feels great to see results quickly. And that's what I was seeing. And that's what makes Fight Camp so awesome to me. I want you to check out Fight Camp. It has thousands of workouts on the app. They're all led by experts. And they can meet with you on your own terms, right? So the beauty of this is that there are live punch stats. So you literally know how strong you're punching, how long you're punching. So you're getting stronger. You're getting quicker. And honestly, the progress is everything. I love that about it. And you can even go head to head. So you can actually box with someone that's across the world, and you have the opportunity to even do it in a family. So Max could work on his, and then I could work and see if I could beat his best. So I love that competitiveness to it, and that's big for our family, as he's nodding his head on that. Max, what do you have to add?
This is the biggest boxing community in the world without leaving your home.
Yeah, we talk all the time on Referrals podcast about building your tribe of trust. One thing I love about Fight Camp is they're building their tribe of trust, and they've built this large group of people who love to work out, are looking to get in shape. I want you to check out Fight Camp. You can join fightcamp.com/referral. So you get free shipping when you join Fight Camp. I hope you check it out at joinfightcamp.com/referrals, and you will get free shipping on any package that you choose. Joinfightcamp.com/referrals. What do most people go wrong when trying to emulate high performance?
Well, some of it is kind of what I just mentioned. Is it's back to that kind of fallacy in their heads. They just assume that this is what they're doing, so they almost create these schedules for themselves. When I'm working with some of my corporate clientele, and they kind of show me their perceived week, like, I'm going to exercise 6 hours tomorrow, and I kind of politely say, you're not. Because I've worked with elite pros and they don't do that. And they have some of the best, physique, some of the best physiology on the planet. So already we have a bit of a mismatch here. We need to kind of look at this together. But I think a lot of people traditionally overestimate the amount that they can get done.
Mhm.
You know, they'll make schedules for themselves that don't take into effect fluctuations in energy. So
Mhm.
I'll see someone, you know, show me kind of their mock schedule. I'm a huge fan of time blocking, and that's one of the
Mhm.
strategies I use with my clients. You know, literally one of my mantras is if it's not in my calendar, it doesn't exist. You know, you got to give it a time, you got to give it a place, yet you have to give it the priority, you know, and we can talk about how to do that more effectively, and time blocking is huge. But I'll see people be like, oh, from 9 till 11 p.m. I'm going to work on this report. And my initial pushback is why? You know, is that report, is it absolutely upon pain of death that has to get done tonight? No, it doesn't. Then why are you doing it at a time where you know you're going to be tired? You already have 8 hours before you. And even though you have the time in your schedule, technically, your energy and attention are going to be completely dipped. So I would argue that you'll probably get more out of that report 30 minutes the next day at 9 a.m. after a fresh cup of coffee when you're at your best than trying to kind of white knuckle it for 2 hours at the end of the day. So I think a lot of it is just kind of merging kind of the ideal versus the reality and getting people to understand less is more.
Here's the other thing, right? It goes back to like cramming in college,
Yeah.
right? And it's just one of those where it's like, oh, I won't go to class today. It's a sunny day and that kind of thing. And then it's like, oh, I won't really crack the book. Like nobody's there to hold me accountable. So, you know, I'll read the whole book like the week before finals, you know. And then like literally the night I remember like
Yeah.
in college literally really worried about a final, and I went to McDonald's to eat 2 fillet of fish at like 11:30 at night
Yeah.
because I heard that fish food was going to be really good, is brain
Good for
food.
brain,
You know what I
and
mean?
cognitive
And I was just like, that's how desperate I was. It's just like, and then the next day, it's amazing when you're in college and you're cramming, is you feel like crap and
Yeah.
your brain is all fuzzy and you're
Yeah.
wondering, you know, why you're performing at a lower level.
Yeah.
And it's because that's one of the things that I think high performance people understand versus people that maybe settle for
Yeah.
average, is you can't cram. You can't cram for success, right? You've got to do it every day. And the other thing that I think you hit on the head is it's easier than you think to be
Yeah.
high performing. You know, it is 2 hours a day,
Yeah.
or less. You know, and the other thing that I think they get wrong is it's easy because we make it look easy.
Yeah.
We make it look easy because they didn't see all the hard. That
Yeah.
was 10 years or 20. They didn't see me reading 2,500 books. So they're like, oh, of course you wrote a book. Yeah, it took me 2 freaking years. You know, I mean, it's like, yeah, I wrote a book, but it was like not hard. But now we make it look easy. So
Yeah.
I love it. You know, a lot of times when you're coaching, and you've helped a ton of people, but let me ask you this. Like, what are the most like important lessons like from your personal and professional journey?
Sure.
Like feel free to talk about yourself a little bit here, right?
No.
So you're helping all of our viewers and listeners, but like what are some lessons you've learned through the years?
Sure. I mean, you know, not to sound cliche, I've learned a lot, especially from mistakes.
Mm.
And I think one of the biggest things, and this is, you know, a Tony Robbinsism, but he says it so perfectly, is I think one of the fundamental mistakes I made, which so many high performers make, is they mistake achievement for fulfillment. And they assume those things are synonymous, and they're not. And, you know, to kind of illustrate that, it is possible to achieve so much in your life, in your professional domain. You know, again, putting my coaching hat on, if I work with athletes, to win national championships, to win European Cups, to get that Olympic gold medal, you know, the things that you would consider to be the apex of your career, you know, hitting your hopes and dreams, but still feeling empty inside. You know, one of my favorite books, one of my favorite athletes that talks about this is a guy by the name of Johnny Wilkinson. He's kind of the Tom Brady of professional rugby union in England. He's retired. He was their World Cup winning hero. You know, he's a national icon to this day, and he's just the epitome of grace, humility, hard work. You know, he's the kind of person you bring home to mom. You know, kind of, you know, back in the day. But the same token, you read some of his work, and he says one of the saddest moments of his life is when he achieved his dream of winning a World Cup. So, I mean, you're thinking, this makes no sense. I mean, you're doing it all, you're getting it. But it was the emptiness he felt. And I'm very fortunate that in my life, like I said, I've worked with professional athletes. I'm so honored and privileged. I've worked in the Premiership as an American of all things too, working with athletes in a sport that's not endemic to American culture. I still remember on my first day, one of the athletes being like, "What the hell do you know about rugby? And why, almost like, why are you here? Like, you don't deserve to be here."
Wow.
Now, fortunately, I had a chance to kind of prove myself, and I cannot speak highly enough about those individuals and that team that did win a championship. We won European Cups. We won the Premiership title when I was there. It was amazing. But I found myself falling into that trap where I woke up one day and sure, I achieved my personal dreams, but I woke up one day and I realized, well, a lot of my relationships have atrophied because I haven't reached out and kept in touch with people that I really cared about. So all of a sudden I realized, sure, I have this success in this time that I've been working so hard, but how many people did I push away in order to do that? How many people wanted to just maybe meet up with me or see something or just chat? And I tell myself I'd get back to them, and I never did. One of the great coaching questions I ask my clients is, how are you complicit in creating the conditions you say you don't want? It's a very evoking question because it forces you to turn inwards and be honest with yourself.
Say that again. How are you complicit?
How are you complicit in creating the conditions you say that you do not want? It's one of my major executive coaching questions that I'll often ask people. And when you answer that open and honestly, and you realize, one of the reasons why a relationship is breaking down is because of you and your actions or inactions, it takes on a very different turn. But in asking myself that question over and over and over, I realized I fell into that trap. I became more consumed with getting things done or crossing things off my to-do list and thinking that was bringing me closer to my goals. But I forgot the fundamental question of, why am I trying to achieve these goals in the first place? Oh, to build connection, to, build a fulfilling life. And I was doing the exact opposite. So that was one kind of major epiphany moment. And I had that as recent as this past fall.
That's a powerful statement. That was a really powerful question, is how are you complicit in creating the conditions of basically situations you hate right? And it's one of those where I ran a real estate company in Kansas City, and we had the Maher team, and we had one of our agents, and like it was like, why does she keep getting the tough clients?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, we have a really smooth system. We have great systems in place and things like that. But, I started like getting on the phone and kind of hanging out a little bit more. And it was like, she was the storm and the calm. What we want as an agent is to be the calm in the storm. Mm-hmm. And it was just almost like she had to prove her worth by creating drama.
Yeah.
And instead of just letting it go by swimmingly. And it was her language. It was literally her language would put her, she was almost adversarial with the client to create drama if there wasn't any other drama in the place. And it was just interesting to kind of see that sabotage. And I talked to her about it, and now she's doing very, very well in real estate. Yeah. And she seems to have handled that and kind of conquered it and realized that it's okay for things to go really well. And really that's what our job is. So I love that. That is such a powerful question. And I have to do this to you. And I don't always do this. I like to just let it waterfall right off. But we talk so much about time and energy, right? And we need to manage those two things, right? Yeah. So how do people go about managing, in your opinion, energy versus time?
Sure. And I know, again,
you're gonna have to think about that answer. I apologize, but no. But this is a really powerful question for me right now because of some things I'm working on and working through, and a class that a mastery course we're putting together called Whispers. So I'm really, really curious about this.
Sure. Well, I mean, there's a few ways that I usually traditionally approach that with my executive kind of clients, and part of it, like we said, is the initial stage, which I call just surveying the scene. So I'll usually have them fill out a brief questionnaire, and I'll try to get an understanding of, first of all, what are your habits? What are the things you hang your hat on? What are the non-negotiables? Are you a coffee drinker? Are you not a coffee drinker? What is your diet, nutrition like? Talk to me about your sleep. When do you go to bed? When do you try to rise? What's the quality like? So I want to try to get an understanding of just the scaffolding that people have, and usually, of course, it's a red flag. Well, I don't do sleep. Okay. I'll put that one on the shelf. We'll address that. But this again, it's not always about making monumental change. It's not about me coming in and kicking over someone's sandcastle and saying, no, we're starting over. Sometimes I do that, but a lot of times it's trying to understand the underpinning reason. So the first thing I always do is I just want to survey the scene and understand who I'm working with, but also understand, again, what are we working towards? What are those outcomes, those results that you want personally and professionally? Then the other thing that I'll do too, and I believe his name is Dr. Michael Bruce, you look at chronotypes. So chronotypes, if I put kind of my physiology hat on, is, the whole scientific underpinning. We've heard the concept, I'm a night owl, or I'm an early bird. There is some scientific merit to that. And this particular practitioner, he has kind of a larger paradigm, and he uses different animals. So it's like, no, you're a wolf, I'm a dolphin, I'm a lion. But what I usually have people do is do that quiz that takes all of 5 minutes. Because if you use his work as scaffolding, which I do, you might realize, you know what, I'm actually at my most energized in the evening. Well, then why are you doing all the things that are tedious and that are taking up all the time in the evening? And, we identify there's a mismatch between the stuff that really you need to focus on and do deep work, borrowing from Cal Newport. You're doing it at the wrong time. Mm-hmm. So I also want to get an idea of what's someone's natural energy rhythms and fluctuations throughout the day. And what I start to do, almost like a detective, is I start putting together the pieces of the puzzle. This is why I'll also do personality tests, like a Myers-Briggs, or you had mentioned DISC at the start of this. Like, I want to get an idea of how do you relate to people? What's your energy exchange like with others? And then once I start kind of compiling this kind of schematic of who this person is, what they're working towards, now we can start looking at options. Now we can start identifying, what's the one thing, great book by Gary Kelleher, what's the one thing that we can do right now that's going to make everything else either easier or unnecessary? That's that one domino that's going to give us that big ripple effect. That's that one Tetris piece that's going to eliminate all the rows of friction. So yeah, I guess what I do is I start with the big picture, and then we gradually narrow it down to small little action steps that person is willing to commit to, but also as a coach that I'm willing to hold them accountable to, because that creates that leverage that I talked about earlier, where something is now a must and not a should. So I kind of put all those principles together, and that's how I find a way for someone to truly manage their energy and their time.
I love it. Powerful. I love how you go granular with it, right? You start with the big picture, and then you filter until you get to those clarifying moments and how to utilize their energy throughout the day. That's so critical. And all right, I've got one more question for you. Sure. But for the listeners and the viewers, you have a special offer for them today. And are you sure you want to do this still?
I want to do it. I got the page up. You can book me.
I'm telling you, this is awesome. So they can't see it, but if go ahead and tell them what the actual domain is for them to go to.
Sure. So when I do my executive coaching, so I use a particular software app called Practice, which is a bespoke service for executive coaches like myself, just coming out of the pandemic game. I mean, they're a great group of individuals that I'm so proud to partner with. So what I've basically given is a link to my profile page where you can see all of my services. But also, too, on that page, you can actually book me for a complimentary 30-minute call. And in that 30-minute call, we can discuss a particular problem. So I can give you, one piece of advice, one piece of action that's going to help you achieve that. And you can also learn more about the coaching process. But also on that same page, you see all the different services I offer. And I don't normally do this, but I mean, I'm so excited to be on this. I'm so excited to help people that I have a special promotional offer that I am going to extend for the rest of the year. Not for the next month, for the rest of the year. So if someone decides to book me and they decide to take and ultimately utilize my services, if they use the discount code REF15, like referrals 15, REF15, they will get 15% off my services for the remainder of the year. However many times they purchase, however many times they book. Because I just want to get the word out there. I just want to help as many people as humanly possible. And this is what lights me up. This is what energizes me. It's helping people on their journeys. So yeah, that is a special offer for all listeners. And I'm just over the moon to be able to give them access to my page to check me out. And if they want to kind of hop on a call, book me.
And that is practice.do, not practice.com. It's practice.do, D-O, / that's / Tim Hanway.
Yep.
That's practice.do/Tim dash, that's a dash, not a slash. So we got a slash and a dash in here, just so everybody knows. And it goes /dash. So it's practice.do/Tim dash Hanway. You got it. This is like the biggest no-brainer ever. You've got, I mean, what's it going to cost you to do a 30-minute session with him? And he could absolutely identify the 1-degree tweak that would make the rest of your year more fulfilling and more successful. I love it. I appreciate that offer. If you use the code REF, short for referrals, 15, you will get 15% off his services for the rest of the year. Listen, go check it out. Make it happen. That's got to happen. Only if you want to get better. Only if you want to have the championship mindset, right? So I love that. And then, all right, the last question is all right, why is it important to have fun? And why do we need to remember what it feels like to play? And that's, I just love, I love that question. So why is it important to have fun?
It's you have to ask yourself all the time, why are you even doing these things? Why are you working so hard? Why are you trying to get that extra account? Why are you trying to get a particular balance on the balance sheet? And I think we can become so consumed, again, with success, however we define that, with our outcomes, our results, that sometimes we forget to just laugh and smile and release. I have to throw in one other movie reference, and I say this almost from a scholarly standpoint. If you want to talk about the championship mindset, of course we got to bring in a Rocky Balboa, reference. But I want to draw attention to the third movie, the one where he fights Mr. T. So this is the one where he kind of, loses his identity. He kind of gets caught up in the glitz and glamour. And this is the one where Apollo Creed trains him. But if you watch the training mantra where Apollo trains him and you see Rocky, he's smiling, he's dancing, he's open. Because when we play, we become open. We become open to possibilities. We don't limit ourselves. We don't limit ourselves to paradigms. We don't limit ourselves to preordained thinkings. We don't create all these artificial schemas. One of my nearest and dearest friends, she's an art therapist, and she's taught me this, for years. I mean, she's even created an app. She's completely changing the game in terms of, mental health and making things accessible. But, she's showed me over the years the importance of play, because in the end of the day, if we're not enjoying it, if we're not able to smile and laugh and just have that creativity, well, what the hell are we doing this for? So I think we also have to remember too, that enjoyment gives you possibilities and opens up doors to different realms that you're not going to necessarily get with just focus. So it gives you like a whole different kind of playing field. So that's why for me, play is absolutely integral to that championship mindset.
Yeah, I love that. So for those of you that are new to the podcast, welcome. But I encourage you to listen to the last 2 Scott Edwards podcast. He got 333 referrals in essentially 8 weeks in business, in an industry that gets 5 a year. He got 333 in 8 weeks. How did he do it? Fun, play.
Yeah.
What if we brought fun back to prospecting? What if we brought fun back to lead generation? What if we brought fun and play back to business? And listen, what if we don't? Is it back to the grind? Is it back to hating work? Is it back to, we thought that we would love work more if we work from home. But now we figured out that we don't even like it there, and we like it our home even less because it represents work, And it's like, well, isn't it interesting? What if work was fun? What if home was fun? What if play was fun? And what if life was fun? And I think we've got to help people find that. Find the fun in everything. And if there isn't any, then maybe you got to do something else. And maybe you have to do something else because you got to begin with the end in mind. And, if you hate cold calling, do you want on your epitaph, greatest cold caller of all time? And, maybe down the road, that would be something where it would almost look like a criminal on a epitaph, right? I mean, like greatest gunslinger of all time. I don't know, right? So it's one of those where I will tell you that this has been awesome. Just such a, you're the true deal. You're the real deal, and I love where you're coming from. One thing that I love that you did today as well, is you cited all the authors, and you cited all the papers, and you cited all of us stand on the shoulders of giants. It's man, we probably need to acknowledge those giants, and I love that, and the whole down the energy and time path was just terrific. And then that question that hit me over the head is just like, how are you complicit in creating the conditions you don't want? You know, and I love that you cited Gary's question. That's one of our 4 clarifying questions that we believe everyone should ask every day. And it's just one of those where, here's what I love about this. You make the championship mindset seem fun and doable. That's it. Yeah. It's not this esoteric thing we need to spend a week with a monk in Asia for, right? It's not this Kobe Bryant workout 3 hours in the morning, eat lunch or eat breakfast, work out 3 hours midday, eat a snack, and then go back 3 hours at night and do it. And he wasn't doing that all the time either. But it was like, it's like, man, you know what? I can achieve a lot of success with my own schedule, in my own time, in the city where I live, with the 19 kids that I have, right? And I just love that. And any final words of wisdom for those kind of tuning in today and hearing you for the first time?
I think the biggest thing is just, know your outcomes, take massive action, create leverage, but also understand too, it doesn't have to be hard. And I think that's what I wanted to just kind of continue to reinforce. A lot of times it's these 2 millimeter shifts. It's that one little snowflake that just rolls down the hill and gains traction and momentum. And that's where you start getting that lasting change. But it's just simple principles done well. Anyone can be a champion.
Anyone can be a champion. Hit it on the head. Here's your action item. Speaking of taking an action, your action item from watching or listening to this today is to go to practice.do/Tim-Hanway, Hanway. Schedule your 30-minute session with Tim right now. And you're going to thank me later for that. So, Tim, speaking of thanking you, I need to thank you now. Thank you so much for being a guest today here on Referrals Podcast.
It is an honor and a privilege. And thank you so much, Michael, for welcoming me.
Man, my pleasure, and your pleasure, listeners and viewers. The championship mindset today, I'm so glad that we covered this. This is such a self-mastery item, and one of the best coaches in the world giving us his wisdom today. Also, I can't leave without asking you if you're going to see me, and I'm going to see you live in Orlando, September 27th, 28th, and 29th for Referral Mastery Summit. Go to rms22.com to get your tickets, and I hope to see you there. And I'm also hoping to see you and hear you and have you on the next episode of Referrals Podcast. And I will tell you right now, if you're in real estate or lending, you have got to be on the next couple of podcasts. We're going to bring it to you. I appreciate all of you, and we'll see you next time on Referrals Podcast.